Hi, Leslie.
Hello?
Hold on. Hold on.
Okay.
Oh, I can hear you now.
Okay, perfect.
Can you hear me?
I can.
Can you hear the music as well?
I can. It's perfect.
What do you see on the screen?
I see the invite.
Okay.
I see my picture, your logo, and my logo.
Cool.
Hello.
Hello. How you doing, family?
Good.
Sorry, let me just put everybody on mute. Sorry.
Am I on mute? No. Hey, Ernie. Hi, Krishana. I'm just waving at people.
You want to give it 2 more minutes, or?
Yeah, let's give about 2 or 3 more minutes for people to come in. How's everyone doing? You can unmute yourself while we chat. How's everyone doing? Ernie, how you doing?
Things are good. Thank you. How are you today?
Good. Thanks for joining again. I appreciate it. Jade, how are you? I can't see Jade. Christina. Folks are starting to come in now, so we'll just give it a few more minutes. Hello. Just wave at everyone. Perfect.
Hello.
Hello. Who's that? Is that Kim?
Yep. Yep.
I was like, I know that voice. Hello. We're just giving it a few more minutes as people are jumping on, and then we'll get started, because this is, I think, going to be a very interesting conversation.
Definitely.
You okay over there? dry cough. That's going to be like the disclaimer now. It's just not coughing. Should we get started?
Whenever you're ready.
Might as well. Those that are here, and everyone else would jump in.
All righty.
I'll let you change the screen.
Yes. Let me stop sharing my content now.
Okay.
All righty.
Fabulous.
Well, thank you everyone for joining us today on this call. The title of this call is It Started with Blame, Then Moved On to Attacking, and What's the New Normal? So just want to go over the agenda first, and then I'll introduce myself, as well as I'll introduce our speaker for the evening, Ms. Leslie Short. So over this call, we'll be having an open and honest discussion about bias and racism during this pandemic, and how this will work. And how this will work, we can facilitate it by keeping everyone on mute for the most part. When you have a question, just go down to the chat function, and if you're unsure what the chat looks like, it should be in your menu bar somewhere. It looks like an ellipse or a thought bubble. Just click on that and put an actual number in there. What I mean by that number is put in sequentially, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And at that point, we can be able to keep track of the questions and who has questions. Once I call out your number, just introduce yourself to everyone else on the call, and then pose your question towards Leslie, and she'll be happy to answer it. And then after you pose your question, I'll put you back on mute as well, too, just to keep there no background noises amongst the different people that are on here. So again, the chat function is open, and feel free to use that during our discussion today as well. Towards the end of the hour, you will be able to exchange contact information with one another as well, too. So we'll take about 5 minutes there. And I advise everyone to either have a pen and paper or do copy and paste to connect with whoever you want to connect with at that time. So yeah, that's the agenda of the call. Again, my name is Micah Lewis. I am the CEO and founder of a company by the name of My Bag Check, which is an on-demand luggage transport solution in New York and San Francisco. Also created this group called the Village Collective, which helps first-generation immigrant and minority startup founders gain access to critical resources to help their companies grow. And if you're interested in connecting, hold on, give me just a moment. All right, can everyone hear me? Raise your hand. Leslie, can you hear me? Okay, cool. Sorry, that's the reason why I have to mute everyone, in part because people come in the noise in the background. So yeah, if you're interested in supporting, the Village Collective, you can definitely just find us on LinkedIn just search for the Village Collective. And with that being said, I'll introduce Leslie. Leslie brings 4 decades of experience when she created the Cavu Group to advise companies and organizations how to expand beyond their current culture through the diversity and inclusion lens. Her talents and skills are uniquely designed to seek growth through open conversation, conflict coaching, training, and workshops. She firmly believes that issues that don't go away because programs are in place, but by continually evolving and having a channel to listen and understand the people who are our greatest assets. If you aren't aware, Leslie is, sorry for calling you Lisa, I apologize. Leslie is also a chaplain, activist, certified mental health aide, certified mediator, conflict and transformational coach, as well as CEO and leadership advisor. She's also a dignitary and keynote speaker at the United Nations and European Union events around the world. She serves on several boards and is an activist for women's rights, humanitarian issues, and U.S.-Israeli relationships. And if you weren't aware already, her book is coming out around January 2021. The book is going to be titled They and Them, Making It We and Us, a realistic approach to diversity and inclusion. And with that being said, I'll let her get started here.
Good evening or afternoon, everyone. 2 more housekeeping things. I just want to make sure we're recording. And if there's anyone on here that needs subtitles, I apologize in advance. with this program, you must type in the old-fashioned way. And since we don't have someone that types that fast, we're not doing subtitles. But if you need the recording after, just let us know and we'll get that back to you. With that said, I really want to jump into this topic of how this pandemic came about with the blame. We started with China. And so China was blamed, then Chinese was blamed, then those that were Asian were blamed. Then if you were in New York especially, it went to the Orthodox Jewish community. And they were blamed for still holding funerals and bar mitzvahs, bat mitzvahs, and that type of thing. Somehow, in the last 2 weeks, it is now in China, no less, become Africans and anyone that's Black. So it started with Africans at the McDonald's. And if you're not familiar with that story, I'll just go back a bit. And I want to also preface this conversation of please put your comments in, start thinking of questions. This is going to be a conversation between all of us. It's not going to be me speaking and then you have to wait to ask a question. So jump in. So if you don't know the story of the McDonald's in China put a notice up, and it was part of the invite saying no Africans because they're spreading the disease. So, well, I think we're all used to a lot of deflecting on blame on a lot of things. And then it went from that to no one of color is allowed in shopping malls or allowed in stores. So it's very bizarre how the blame game has done a circle. And then if you saw Politico article today, they have, I'm just looking, Russia, China, and Iran are blaming the US. So at this point, the conversation for me really goes past the blame. What do we do with this? What do we do with this bias? Because it went from blaming to attacking. So Annie, you'll be mad at me, but I'm calling out my girlfriend, Annie, who is a doctor, who happens to be Asian, who is an amazing doctor who I call for everything, and that's not what she does. But because people did not see or people don't see or know what she does, there is a bias on, oh, you're Asian, I'm going to attack you. You saw that on buses. Oh, you're Jewish Orthodox, you're out doing funerals. On the flip side, we had African Americans shooting a video in the barbershop last week. So it is such a disparity also on how things are being handled. So you have the police standing next to Orthodox Jews going, please stop that type of thing. You have folks getting arrested in the barbershop, and you have other people just being attacked all the way around. How do we move past the blame and the constant bias of Asians? I know in New York, they have now done a new task force that was announced again today in regards to making sure that there's a task force for bias against Asians. I love that. I think there should be a task force for everyone. Clearly, we're policing ourselves or not policing ourselves. But at some point, when the bias that's been consistent in the Jewish community has also been consistent now through the pandemic outside of the Orthodox Jewish neighborhoods, and clearly anyone that's African American or brown has known that this is a bias that has been part of a culture. Okay, so now we're wearing bandanas. It's necessary that we all must have face coverings. Well, I've had a lot of Black men say to me, I don't want to wear a face cover. I'm not going to wear a face cover. A face cover is going to get me killed. So what does that look like? And if there's anyone on here that wants to share that feeling of, that's just one more layer I'm going to have to deal with, then I really would love to hear from you. Because maybe you want to jump in on that. So we had this conversation.
Yeah, I'll start it out with my question that I had as well, especially when it came down here. So I'm in the Northeast area, New York, New Jersey area, and when this requirement came, as far as wearing a face covering to enter into the gas station, to enter into Walmart, to enter into Target. There was genuine fear about, how I'm going to be perceived, because I have this even before the pandemic started. It's how am I perceived anyway, just by being a black male. And one of the things that I try to be conscious of that I find, after the Trayvon Martin thing, wearing even a hoodie. So now it's still pretty chilly up here in New York area. So you still have to have a jacket on. So it's not like now it's a double whammy for me as far as not only wearing a hoodie, but now I have my face covered as well too. And walking through the street sometimes, are people are I have the thing. Are people truly crossing the street because the 6 feet distancing thing, or is it truly like, hey, this black guy's walking down the street with a dark hoodie and a face and his face covered as well too? So it's one of these things. Like the major question I have is like, how do we move past that point where at least people that look like me can actually exist in life without that fear? I know that's kind of a rhetorical, unanswerable question, but I just love to
Sure
talk
wish I
to
had that
everyone
answer.
else as well. So
And I really wish I had that answer. I think we're going to run into ignorance, and bias is real and racism is real. Let's not any of us on this call, I know I'm preaching to anyone that's on this call, it's a reality. And ignorance and lack of education is real. And I'm not going to say to somebody, you can't be yourself and you shouldn't be able to wear a hoodie. But I can get it. I'm not a black man, but I can get wearing a hoodie and wearing a face mask and then walking into a store to pick up a soda out of your neighborhood and eat in your neighborhood. I don't know what that answer is. What I do know is that as they're building task force, there needs to be task force for everyone across the board. There needs to be consistent education outside, and those of us that that are aware of this need to educate others. Like even I said to some black men that I saw on the corner, I'm in downtown Brooklyn, and I see these men all the time, but they were all speaking with their masks down. And I looked at them, I said, I can't afford to lose you. Please put your mask on. Stand in front of the store, because it's the store that they work on. But why should I have to tell them to go stand in front of the store? We always have to adjust. And unfortunately, we're still in the adjustment stage. And I'm annoyed by the fact that we have to adjust. No one should have to adjust because the color of their skin or the way that their facial structure is. But unfortunately, that's the case we're in right now. So I'm open to if someone has other ideas as well on what are we going to do? As black men, what do you do? When I'm walking down the street with the mask and I got my glasses on, I got my gloves on, and I'm all discombobulated with the bags, I don't want to be out anymore. I try to look at people in their eye, and I do the little head nod with the eyes and keep it moving very quickly, 6 feet apart.
yeah, looks like I have a question, Leslie,
Yes. From?
from Michael.
Hi, not Michael, it's Sherry.
Hi,
Michael and I
Sherry.
both are on here. But mine is not a question. I know you speak about the men with the face covering now and worried about that. Well, that's something I've worried about for over half of my son's life, just him going out there, period. But just recently, since this all started, I myself was in a supermarket with the face mask on, and I'm shopping. Caucasian lady looked at me and said, "Huh," and she got really scared, like I was going to do something to her in the supermarket. So it's not just men now. Also, it's just
People of color. No, I agree with you. And so it's something that if they're saying this is the new normal, and I just read the comment, yeah, you have something on your face and you reach in a pocket for your phone and people start jumping. It's like what happened at 9/11. And I tell this story because he came back and told it to me. It was a light-skinned African-American man, was flying first class to LA. It was like when we first started flying, we're all in the entertainment industry. And he said he sat down next to a white woman and she jumped. And he looked over and said, "Oh, don't worry, I'm black." And she said, "Oh, thank God." He said, "I think that's the first time a white woman ever said, thank God," to a black man. We have such perceived biases. And it's this pandemic has brought it to the forefront and brought it to the top. You know, where are we, and this is what we're going to speak about next week, where are we going to spend our money? Because we're quick to run to the Chinese market, right? We're quick to run to the Chinese store because they have the best fried wings, you know, but something happens and all of a sudden you're not talking to them, you know? And so it's the same thing. Like they see us and we're immediately going to rob somebody, jump on someone, because that's unfortunately, it's not only media that beats it, and I'm not going to beat on media, and I'm not beating on anyone that's white. This is a conversation because we all need to be part of this conversation. The education must always continue to be there. And it doesn't make a difference whether you're a woman of color or a man of color. The fact that people are immediately looking at everyone. How are you going to live if you're looking at everybody with two eyes going like this? And now I'm going to look at you like that if you're not 6 feet away from me right now, which really needs to be 12, because I just don't want anybody breathing on me. I don't care who you are at this point. But how do we move this forward? How do we stop blaming? Because we went from blaming an illness to blaming cultures and races.
I have another question for you. You know, with this task force that New York has started, it's a two-part question. One, do you think it's going to be effective? And then the second part would be, if it's not effective, then how do we get a task force for every single group that has been victimized based upon, you know, circumstances out of their control? So two-part question. I just like you.
Only task force that to the best of my knowledge, when I'm on these calls, is not one for African Americans. There has been one for Muslims. There is now the one for Asian. There is one for Jewish, but no, there's not one for white folks, and there's not one for Black folks. So yeah, and that's what I'm looking at now. Where is the task force for African Americans? You know, they're saying, and I'm going to say they, as the government says, if we see a man of color walking down the street with a mask, we will not be stopping them. That's nice conversation. I think the reality of it is not always the case. I don't think police are jumping to stop too many people right now, truth be told, because they're not trying to get out their car and get close. But the honest truth is, if you have a white guy walking down the street with a bandana, same bandana as someone Black walking down the street with a bandana, chances are, if they're going to stop someone, it's going to be the African American person or the person of color before someone white gets stopped, you know, unless something has happened and they're doing something. So yes, these task forces need to start happening, and I think that's when we really need to step up as a group. And when I say as a group, it is a group of collective of like-minded people that want to make change.
Makes sense. We got a second question here from Amanda as well. So Amanda, I unmuted your mic.
Thank you very much. I hope everyone's having a good evening. Hello, Lady Leslie.
Hello, Miss Amanda.
More than just a question, more of a comment, because, you know, yes, I believe that everyone should have responsibility. You have to be responsible. I mean, because we're all adults here, you know, but we're also teaching children and everything and other generations as well. So we have a responsibility. However, I also do believe that leadership in media also has a responsibility. And as long as they're giving, you know, not the full facts, false information, or, you know, let's be real, our leaders said it was a Chinese, you know, disease in the beginning and a lot of different things. And so when you're putting these things out here, you have to be much more responsible. You know, for me, especially when I'm talking to like my C-suite clients and things like that, you know, I always say it starts at the top. You know, the culture starts at the top. And so again, it's hard to say. We as people, of course, we need to be more mindful and aware of other cultures, 100%. You know what I mean? Because I mean, for absolutely, absolutely. And I feel like it's important because the other part is like, for instance, you know, my sister, her best friend is Asian as well, and she got attacked on the street. And this is before the COVID-19 situation happened. Um, I have other clients who are part of the Orthodox Jewish community. We talked about the fact that the leadership really should be, you know, passing this down, saying, hey guys, we cannot congregate like this. This is not healthy.
Just so you know, that did happen. I
Mhm.
know for a fact where they pulled in a lot of the rabbis who
Yes.
in that neighborhood, and that's why you have seen less. Not
Yes.
that not more, but you have seen less of it because they did actually bring them in. And I think that's where it also comes from. When you say leadership, it's leadership across the board. It's not only your politician, it's your local activists having the conversation.
Absolutely.
It's you seeing something and saying it to your neighbor. Baby, put your mask back on. Like, was that necessary? Like, I called somebody and they were like, oh, it's the Chinese virus. I said, no, baby, it's not a Chinese virus. It is a virus. And it may, and I said, to the best of our knowledge, it started in China. Well, we don't even know where it really started. So,
Exactly.
you know, it's again, yes, media is, you know, everything is, we all know this, everything's not a breaking news story.
Right. Exactly.
I saw a great meme today. If it's not, you're sending me $1,000,000 or we found a cure, just stop calling it breaking news right now. Because
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, and that's exactly what I'm talking about, because even with, you know, when the whole scenario happened, when the cops came out and everything else, you know, that's one of the first things I spoke to one of the rabbis, like, that they talk. I mean, again, there's a communication breakdown, you know what I mean? And that this is what's key, as our communication as a whole. You know, we need to have a better way of communicating with each other, especially when it comes down to cross culture communication as well.
you have to know who, like, is what I just said. You have to know who the leaders are within that community. You know, it's
Absolutely.
just what I said the other day on something, that every time something happens in the Black community, they run to the preachers and ministers and all of that. And I have no problem with that, but there are other leaders that maybe the young people aren't looking to that particular.
Absolutely, I agree.
So you have to do dimensions, and I can't count on, or we can't count on only city agencies doing that because they only have so much manpower. So again, it comes to each of us at our own level of community to stop falsehoods, to be the example. Now, is it our responsibility to take on the world? No, but yes, you take on what you can take on, and of just calling it out when you see it. I love the comment that Jade made. I just want to go back for a second. The virus doesn't discriminate, but society does. Jade, you're absolutely right. And that's what it is. We are so ingrained in bias and discrimination. And I'm a big one that race, racism, and racist are three different words. And so I'm always very careful with those three words as well. And so race is who we are. Racism is your own thought process. Racist is you are actually now starting to act on your thought process. That's now where it interferes with me. That's when you're now putting it on somebody else.
Hey, Leslie, we had a comment, and apologize if I mispronounce your name, Benalita. So I'm going to unmute her. She made a comment in the chat, and I think this is a great topic to be discussed.
Yes.
Hi, you pronounced my name perfectly, so thank you. So I've got a question. I'm a scientist by training, and one of my question is the bias fueled by anti-science sentiments? So I'm Haitian, and for most of my childhood, a lot of my white friends' parents thought that if you were from Haiti, you had AIDS. You know, I was adopted by a white family, and those things were said without really accounting for the fact that, oh yeah, I am from Haiti. So I've kind of and one thing I realized is that people actually did understand the concept of contagion, just what it means for something to be contagious, and also means and modes of contagion. And just understanding those two criterions kind of took it away from a de facto you're Haitian, you have AIDS, to there are behaviors that will be conducive to an individual getting AIDS, and because of condition X, Y, and Z, and Haiti, for instance, being poor public health policies, poor education, it spread like wildfire because there were no resources. So I feel that there's a little bit of the same thing here, where we say there's X group that's responsible for it because there's an anti-science sentiment that prevents people from actually taking the time. It is airborne. You breathe it, you walk into it, you will be. So really, because sometimes I feel that, like Dr. Fauci, simple concept would really unmask a lot of those biases. And I feel that as a Black person who happens to be gay, who happens to be an immigrant, often it's just really making the science simple and bring the bias naked, pretty much undress the bias.
Strip it. I absolutely agree with you. Thank you so much for that. You said it eloquently. That's exactly what it is. On the flip side, unfortunately, we have people that are out there, and it was on the news on it as I was walking in here. I turned on the news quickly, and guess what was on the news? I'm not wearing a mask because our president doesn't wear a mask. And this is not against, I don't want to get into a Trump thing, but I want to get into what you said. People, you can give them the science, you can show them this, and this doesn't equal that. This is how this is made. 2, 3, 4. And they go, that's not what it is. And so it is what this virus is also stripped is how people follow. That people do not read. Lord, you're speaking science. God bless you. What is not? We're not making slime in the house. For some people, that's science. We made slime with a Coke, we put a Mento in and explode it. They don't understand how science plays a part in every single thing that we do. And they don't understand, they don't break it down. They see one thing and they just go with it because they don't think, and they don't, and clearly they're not reading outside of their community. And that's where bias and racism starts, when you stay within that same community of hearing it over and over and over again. And that's where we have to do better in media. That's where we have to do better with ourselves. And yes, I agree with you. If doctor could break it down a little bit, but I don't know if he even has that option. They're controlling what he says in a kind of sort of way.
The next thing we have a comment from Kim as well. She looks like she was giving some suggestions on ways that we could combat, but I don't want to take her thunder. So I muted your mic, Kim, and you could make your comment and ask your question.
Where am I? Oh, sorry.
No worries. Oh, you're on mute.
You're mute now.
Sorry. I agree with what Amanda says. I agree with everything that you say also, and the young lady that just spoke. I think that people are definitely in a fear mongering. It have had fears a long time for anyone, that does not look like them. Some people make an effort to understand other cultures, and some people just are stuck in their ways. A lot of this is because people in the household speak one way to their children and they act another way when they get outside. It is unfortunate that there's the authenticity, and I'm not saying it right, but people need to be more authentic in what they're doing. I can appreciate you more if you tell me you just don't like Black people, or I got Black friends. I cannot appreciate when you go to a meeting, you make certain jokes, and I'm sitting there and you think that it's okay. There's a disconnect, I think, that has been going on for a very long time. I'm so sorry that this pandemic has happened, but I think it is unearthed. It is shaking up the foundations that need to be shaken up. There's a lot of conversations that need to be had with neighbors, with people at the store. It's just like the bodega around the block has had a sign up for a very long time that no one will be allowed in with a mask. Now let's see what happens when everything goes back to normal.
Right.
You know, is that gonna our money is still green? I don't care where we go, anywhere. People will always take our money, but they don't necessarily want to live near us. They don't necessarily want to work with us. But when it comes to the money,
why are you taking
cool
next
with
week's
that.
topic? But no, it is true. So there was an article that you may have seen going around about and this was in London, an African American nurse who is on the front lines, and I posted it today. And you know, she said, "You applaud me now, but next week or in another 2 weeks, I'll be, you know, your racist tendencies will come out." And so, you know, I said, I will stand with you always. If I have made that pact that I'm going to stand with another human being, I don't care where, what they've come from, I will stand with you. And I said it at a speaking engagement of what, 2000 and something. I was at the Jewish convention and I was on a panel and I asked, but will you stand with me? Not when I come off the stage and I'm the best thing since sliced bread and everyone wants to take pictures. Will you know who I am when I'm standing in the hotel lobby? Will you know who I am when I'm on Amtrak coming back to New York? Or will you just ignore and walk on? We can no longer afford to walk on. And so that comes back to, how do we take advantage of the light of the disparity of this virus? We said last week, this is not an equalizer.
No.
When you have the doctor in front of his house,
yes,
test to the homeless and putting in tents and tests, and comes and gets arrested because they do not believe that he's a doctor. They do not believe that he's out helping people. So at what, there's only so much we can continue to say, I'm one of the good ones, before people have to continue to lead by example, train. Now, half of the training is one of the reasons I started the Cavu group, is because I didn't believe the trainings spoke to people in offices today or on the street today. People are smart, yet people are followers. So if you don't have the conversations that people can understand, exactly what Lindsay said, if you don't break it down and strip some things, people are left and they're confused. I see we can shoot. Am I jumping? Yeah, I'm supposed to let you lead. Sorry.
Go for it. Go for it. No, it's just,
yes, go ahead.
no, I'm just saying people are leaving just comments and everything via the chat function. So if you want to read down them.
I just saw Nancy, because that's the one that's jumping. I'll go back up. Can we choose to make this opportunity to go back to better than normal? Yeah, because normal clearly wasn't working, Nancy. Thank you for your comment. Normal wasn't working. Normal was a lot put on to just keep, you know, you get up, you go to work, you have people that you work with. You know, I have my Asian friend, I have my Black friend. It's crazy, and that's how people describe. And let's be honest, that's how people describe people sometimes. So normal doesn't work. How do we make it better? By saying, calling it when we see it. When we hear someone say the Chinese virus, say it's a virus. When we see someone say, I don't know, you know, that Black guy has his pants down or whatever. I can't, that's a bad example because his pants should be up. But, you know, when we see, don't judge. So I was on a call yesterday and I really wasn't on the call, I was a guest. And then they asked me to speak about diversity and inclusion. And someone was speaking about, well, I will judge anyone depending on what I see in their background on Zoom calls. Now, you know, I didn't let that go. And I was like, excuse me, I know I'm a guest, but I can't let that go. How dare you be that privileged and biased to judge someone's talent because of what's behind them? Yes, you should make an effort, but maybe that person is living in a place that was their effort. Maybe that person has the Zoom background because they don't want people to see where they are. Maybe they have a lot going on. I said, and on the flip side, you had a singer on the TV show the other day with his bed unmade, his piano right in his little room. And I don't remember his name, if someone does. So we need to be aware of even those comments. So when we go back to the new normal, which we don't know what it is, because we're in a normal of a moment now, we need all of us here that clearly this means something must make an effort to say to someone, hold on, that's not what that is.
I have a question for you. I just thought of this as well too. I've been looking at some memes on social media. Don't fault me for it. Um, but but one of the things I find interesting, you have Texas and you have Georgia that's opening back up their economies and everything. And what I find to be interesting about that scenario is that one, the selection of businesses that they're looking at opening. So just want to see your thoughts around, why these particular businesses that they're opening, and I'll just tell you at least my slant on it is that they're going to open up what barbershops, your rib shacks and places like that are traditionally owned by, yes, that are traditionally owned by minorities. Um, from a certain extent, I look at it as, okay, the reason why they're doing that is being in part because, for one, we know traditionally healthcare has been, sparse with this particular with this population. So it seems like they're opening these places up to essentially accelerate infection amongst a group that can't protect themselves. So I don't know. Maybe I'm slanted. Maybe I'm a little jaded when I come to those things. But that's one of the things that came to mind. When I saw when I saw those things happening.
It came to mind, and then I had to let the spirit of my chaplaincy take over, so I don't get mad and say it's still a test. I mean, they're testing a bunch of stuff in it. I don't want to say they're trying to kill us all out, but I'm going to say they're tests that they're testing, and those are the neighborhoods they're testing in. I texted someone before I got on the call because they're talking about opening up casinos in Vegas. And I said, if they open it up, you better stay yourself at home because this person likes to go and do a little gambling. Do not go. But I also love that Nina said, when they open all these shops, I'm gonna let you all run out there and go because I'm gonna stay home for the next month and see what's happening. So yes, they know.
But how do we support our community at that point in time? What type? I mean, it's kind of.
Some of them are smart enough to say, I'm not opening. The one barbershop, who's the big barbershop in Atlanta, he said, man, I'm not opening. They can open if they want. I'm not falling for it. I'm gonna hold on. So everyone has to be smart. How do we support them? Some people said they bought gift cards. We know in our communities of color, that's not normally the case. And if you have, I don't know if some of your people was able to buy gift cards from you in advance for your spot. Annie does acupuncture and is amazing. Like I said, doctor, she does a lot of things. I don't know if people are able to buy gift cards there. Normally, in the lower economy communities, you're not buying gift cards. I'm sending messages to someone like, I'll be there the day you open for real. When we're all safe, I'm there. And they're like, yo, I'll be there too, and not a day before. Let them know that you're still with them, that you see. I'm not running out. But I also understand for some, it's if they don't get money in their pocket today because of the disparity of how the funds, when we have all the big companies getting funds and smaller businesses not getting funds or not even qualifying, not hearing back, but all of a sudden all these other checks have just rolled on out by magic. I want to support, but it's hard to support a small business when you don't have it as well at this time. So letting people know as soon as we're there, I'm there, as soon as we can do it. I love it. Yes, people should use common sense when going. Is there a way that a barbershop can open? So I've been thinking about that. Does the shop open and they have to stagger people in? And so one barber's at one side and another barber's at another side. And so you're not making the money you were making, but something's coming through the door on timing. Maybe that's a way of doing it. Maybe if it's nice out and if there's a yard, I'm gonna cut outside one at a time and we're gonna rotate that in. I don't know. But we need to be smart.
Makes sense.
They say the community leaders in Atlanta are not having it. No, the community leaders aren't having it, and they've been speaking up. So yes, that's another way of, again, we can't rely on one set of go run. That's like, when all your mother said, if everybody jump off the bridge, you're gonna go too. I've always been, I'm gonna let you run, and I'm gonna get right to the edge and be like, y'all good? How'd that work out for you? You okay over there? Because we're going to need to be smart. We're going to need to be smart to turn this around. Is there an advantage to this? Because again, everyone says, oh, a light has been shined on bias and racism. Has it? Because I don't think there's any new bias or racism. I think it continues to grow, and it gives people an extra excuse to go out and attack people. It's another layer. This has been one more layer to show bias and racism and blame. I want everyone to stop blaming, and let's figure out how we're gonna move through this. Any other? Yes, go ahead. Sorry.
Go ahead. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was just gonna say, if anyone has questions, go ahead and throw them into the chat and everything. And can you all hear me? Am I moving too much? Okay. I start getting excited and so again, let's go back to this. Stop blaming and start thinking. Communities that are keeping the country running while we are in shelter in place. Undocumented brothers and sisters, you are so true. Who said that? Sarah, thank you. Hey, Sarah. Sarah, do you want to say some more on that?
Sure. I think that a lot of us, and we're talking about kind of going back to, someone said going back to better than normal. I think this has been a real time. I've heard a lot of thank you to doctors and nurses, and I'm sure everyone on here also knows there's a huge amount of thanks that goes to our sanitation workers, the janitors, the people that go in and help at the end of someone getting over COVID. And there's just like across the board, technicians in hospitals, all of that. But I mean, the food that's on our plates, undocumented farm workers, people, essential staff that are helping to try and keep small business restaurants open that don't get to shelter in place because they depend on it. I think it's, I hope that when we go back to being better than normal, that we also are able to have a conversation of gratitude as a country that recognizes these people more, and that conversation doesn't just end in gratitude, but ends in actual action, like livable wages, pathways to citizenship, things like that. And I know this is a lot of, dreams and, optimism, but I think we have a platform here. I think as a faithful person, I think God has given us something to think about. I think God has given us space to check in with ourselves. And I hope that it can give us all that platform to have that conversation, especially about, for me as a Latina and someone who works with a lot of undocumented people, I hope it does open that door for that community, for us to be able to advocate.
Thank you so much, Sarah, because you're right, because let's be honest, they're the essential workers.
Mm-hmm.
They're the ones that's right now cleaning up hospital floors and subways and doesn't have the proper mask and gloves and all those other things, or wages. And, when I saw about the ticker tape parade, as much as for doctors and nurses, I'm there, but all I could think of is the freaking, nobody wants a clap or a ticker tape parade. Every doctor, nurse, janitor, subway, whatever they're doing, they want to see it in their check, and they want to not be fired when they speak out. They just hired those other nurses back. They want to have fair wages, living wages, to be able to support their families. We don't need a ticker tape parade. We're good. And I'm speaking for them. I'm like, the amount of money that this city will spend, can you not put that in the check of somebody that's been showing up every day? That's my thought as well with you.
Leslie, we have a dissertation by Benalita. Sorry, she's sending it directly to me, but I'll let her make the comment to everyone. So I unmuted your mic.
Oh, hi, sorry. um, so,
Thank you.
beating the drum of science again, but so I've got two, it's more of an approach. So universities, at least for CUNY and I think University of Arizona, there are core curriculums. You cannot graduate if you don't take a philosophy course and if you don't take a history course, because it's deemed that it is critical to be an educated citizenry, well-rounded, that you have some degree of exposure, not mastery, but exposure to those topics. How about making sociology and to some degree an emphasis on diversity and inclusion and the critical importance of it part of core curriculums?
From
Because
elementary school.
well,
All the way.
I agree, but I can only speak to core to university that have a more leeway in how they change stuff than say earlier on. And I feel that also there needs to be an effort from every science educator to talk about bias in their science courses. I mean, I teach chemistry and I usually tell people, Flint, Michigan, have you heard about it? I, as a chemist, will tell you that there's a logical process by which you can explain how is the water dangerous? Why is it dangerous? And I feel that it's my job to bring that up from a scientist, but also putting in a context where when I teach people about what goes into water and what's water quality, I can tell them this is an example.
Right.
We have a moral imperative
Scientists
to do.
look like you.
That's the other problem. I went to university. I was the only Black person, not teacher, the only Black student, the only Black faculty, and an entire chemistry department. And I will make it even more outrageous. It was in the heart of Brooklyn, New York.
Yes, and I'm not surprised. And so when you say that teaching, I agree with you. The issue is, and then you always say representation matters. When there is not someone that it is part of their DNA, and not always, because we have a lot of amazing allies, and I have someone on this call, and allies and champions and advocates for all races, and they stand right there and they stand up. But if it's not in your DNA to stand up for anyone that doesn't look like you, sound like you, or walk like you, it is not part of your thought process to have that as a curriculum that is mandatory. Because why do we need to think about it? So when sometimes African Americans or people of color will come to me and go, Leslie, why aren't they thinking about me for a raise? Or why aren't I getting this? I said, because they don't have to think about you. That's not how they think. And I'm saying even leadership, but it should be, because you have a bias in science, you have a bias, and there is biases. We all walk in bias, And so even from that simple elementary level of bias, to understand the top four, would be essential to people. I would like for it to happen, honestly, before they ever get to university. Because by the time some people get to university, it is either a great time for them, minds to open and get away from home and see the world. But that's only if they take a step out and go somewhere, a school that is going to be different for them. And so it's when you're ready to get that course in there, call me. I will do whatever I need to help you. Let's put it that way. I'm with you. Yeah.
Leslie, one question for you. What can all of us take away from, this conversation to try to make, I guess, the best out of this situation for what it is? What are three things that doesn't have to be three. What are some of the things that we could do to be better allies for one another? And basically make this to try to come out of the situation better than we started it.
One, speak up. I think speak up. And when I say speak up, I mean speak up within your friends, within your community. Let people know that things aren't right. Figure out how you're going to change something next time. And it's like what I said, if you hear someone say the Chinese virus, or you see just what I said, if she's serious and she wants to do a course, I don't know if I can help anyway, but I'm offering my services to be like, if you need a signature on something that this is right, or someone to come in and speak to your class, whatever that has, I'm willing to do that. Be the ally, the advocate, the champion for yourself and the community and for those you see. You know, you be the one that looks at the black guy with the scarf, or the black girl with the scarf, and give a eye wink, because you don't know how much someone needs that on the street, just that you see them. And then if you are in someone that's in government or things like that, let it be known. Just again, don't let things go by under the table, said just because. You know,
Gotcha.
fair weather. You know.
So we have about 7 minutes left, just FYI.
Okay, perfect. So, you know, if someone else has something that they want to add to as a takeaway, put it in the chat. This is about all of us learning from each other to be better, to have these conversations. Let's keep having these conversations. It's not about blame. But if we don't have these conversations, by the time someone gets back into an office a month from now, 2 months from now, or whenever it opens, and these conversations stay pent up inside you, you know, the moment somebody says something crazy to you or bumps you at the water cooler, coffee cup, you're gonna be like, let me explain it to you. So let's start knowing how to respond to this. You know, don't assume that somebody knows who you are. Sometimes you need to let them know who you are, but stand up to someone, even if you're just walking behind them and you look at somebody else like, today's not the day to mess with them. Be that. You know, if there's anyone, like I said, if there's anyone that has any other comments, jump in. Otherwise, if you all want to change information on how to get in contact with each other, go ahead and put that in the chat, whether it's LinkedIn, IG.
Hold on. Give me just a moment, Leslie. Apologies for muting you. I thought I could unmute everyone, but that's not the case. Sorry, finish your
But everyone, if you want to unmute yourselves, go ahead, because everyone has the power to unmute themselves, so that you can go ahead and do that. And next week's conversation, which clearly Kim is going to be part of, is where is your money going to go? When all of this is over, where are you spending your money? Because see, there's some companies that's done some real crazy, shady things, and there's been some companies that has really stood up and been beacons in this, as well as some CEOs and leaderships. So it'd be great to have that conversation. I see something about mandatory vaccines. Folks thought.
Before that, I think you have a question. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think, hi. Yamaya posted something really interesting, and I just wanted to hear more about it. I think she wrote that mandatory vaccines as a Black person sounded really like problematic, and I that could be true. So I was just wondering, mandatory versus non-mandatory vaccines in general, is there cultural concern about vaccines?
Ooh, I think that depends on where you are. I mean, and you know what? So you said something great. It's cultural concerns about so many things. That's why the Orthodox Jewish community didn't listen to vaccines for kids or gathering in the street. I think who's given the vaccine, what's in the vaccine. I don't want to be the first guinea pig to do it, and I am concerned that it will be tested. But look at what happened. The article in France, they were going to test it on Africans, and I don't know if you all heard about this. I called everybody I knew, my ex, like everyone in France, and was like, "What is this article? What is going on in France?" And he was like, "Yeah, two stupid doctors decided that they would take the Africans in France and start testing the vaccine on." So what are we? So it becomes like we're guinea pigs again. Black folks have already sacrificed that. We went through that years ago of having vaccines and things and not knowing. So I think it's really Yeah, Emma, who's going to be the guinea pigs? Yeah, they've been looking at Africans to be the guinea pigs. So I'm gonna need some time. I'm gonna need some time on that vaccine. If anyone else wants to jump in and go, if it's cultural or not, I think it's.
I think we're still recovering from the moral tragedies such as Tuskegee. And when you see a white doctor telling you that they have to inject your child, and it's something that it's been tried on 600 people, it's different. I will tell you, having a 15-month-old, I'm a scientist, but I can understand why somebody in a different position will like, if a Black doctor tells me they will give it to their child, it will create a different rapport. Again, having to do with representation. Tuskegee is a moral tragedy we refuse to talk about.
Yes.
And because we refuse to talk about it, the trust that it has eroded will never be mended.
And that's why that doctor said, you love me now because I'm saving your life.
Exactly, correct.
Next week, I'm gonna be a Black doctor and I don't want to see her. Yeah. But this week I'm good. It's the same exact thing. Representation matters. Who's giving you the message matters.
So I've got a question. How do you make bias something that's financially relevant to address? So how do you make bias something that affects people's bottom line?
Okay, great conversation, which is part of next week's as well. Because of no, that's good, but that's great. Then I'm on the right road with the conversation next week. It's going to affect, and I don't want to give away too much. Where are you spending? So there has been proven that if you stop spending at a certain, if you stand and say, we're no longer supporting this company, that's the consumer. Internally, unfortunately, when those that have stood up and fought for diversity and inclusion for some companies have been fired or let go. For not that, of course, but others. It is the bottom line. But we have to stand together. And we can't be 1 week we're doing this and the next week we're doing that and that when we're doing that. It has to be a united, consistent front. It will start happening. And that will be the conversation next week. So I really do hope that you're going to be part of that. By the way, next week is going to be 6 p.m. instead of 5 p.m. due to a conflict. So I do hope you all will be able to join at 6 with us.
Right. Thank you again. And it's now 6 o'clock now here as well. What I'll do, I'll keep the chat open for everyone. So if you want to exchange LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, whatever it may be, you could do that now with whomever you want. So I'll leave this open for another 5 to 10 minutes. And also as well, you can unmute yourself and talk freely if you want to as well.
I mean,
hi, everybody.
Hey, Sarah, we have a cocktail now. We have
we do.
If anyone would like to get in touch with me, I'm on LinkedIn under Leslie Short, or you have the Cavu Group is the company, as you all know.
Leslie, make sure you change your chat over to send to everyone. You've been chatting me a few times. I'm just
and this is why I don't chat and do that is why don't mess with me here, people. That's why you get to do with you. Oh, everyone, look at that, but I really appreciate everyone taking the time to join. Let's keep these conversations going. They're important. At least I feel like they're important. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hey, Annie.
I'm gonna go bar hop now. Bye.
Hey, I'll see you in a few minutes, Sarah. Kim, thank you. Annie, thank you.
You're welcome.
Michael, Ken, good to see you. Wow, I'm screaming over people. Benita, love you. Just met you, love you.
Actually enjoyed it very much. I wasn't sure what to expect, so I'm happy I joined in. And I'm no longer an educator. I jumped to the dark side. I was in pharma consulting. But I'm trying to go into public service right now, so I'm trying to jump into the CDC if they'll have me.
I'm backing you. Whatever you're running, whatever you're doing.
I actually sent you an email, or just drop you a line if you don't mind.
No, please do. This is what this is about, so that we all can connect with like-minded people, because that's the only way we're gonna move this stuff forward.
Yeah, and I feel that one of the things that's actually very important. I feel that the diversity of the attendees was notable. I wish that there was a more diverse audience to Black women talking about diversity and biases.
Get that done.
What?
I can make that happen.
So make it happen to your next talk, because I feel that.
Let's do the one after that, because we plan on where your money goes, and
all right.
I'll do the diversity of women, because my friends, and you saw I'm across the board.
Yeah.
And they talk, and we talk about this all the time. So I'll make that happen. We can make that happen.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Join that.
Drop me a line. Hey, Ken.
How you doing?
How are you?
Yeah. I love these meetings, by the way. They're very controversial, and you get a lot of knowledge from different people. So it's nice to have these. It really is.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I really do. We're all in this together, and those that want to make a change, figure it out, confused, upset, mad, happy on this, need to, I felt just need to get together and have the opportunity to discuss some things that are just not being discussed at this moment, or is one-sided. And I don't want to have one-sided conversations. I want people to agree, not to agree, have new ways of thinking about topics. So
Yeah, exactly. And that's why I love joining this. I truly do.
yeah, thank you.
Trying to keep the 3 kids quiet right now, so they're not in the background.
Well, go take care of the kids and say hello to the family for me.
Absolutely. Thank you. I'll see you next week. All right.
See you next week.
That's cool.
Kim, talk to you later.
See you, girl.
Bye.
Pleasure. Take care.
Bye,
Have
guys.
a great one.
Thanks. How do I get out? I'm telling everyone else.